Hey, that's right. Welcome in. Another Friday edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com. It is Friday, September 27th, 2024. A lot of you probably getting ready to head out the door, check out some local sporting action tonight all around the Magic Valley. Before you do so, we appreciate you being here with us on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. You can also go back and watch this on replay anytime at those three destinations. You can also listen to this podcast at IdahoSports.com, along with wherever you download and subscribe to podcasts. My name is Brandon Baney. Let's bring on our Magic Valley expert, Scott Burton. Yo, what's up, Scotty?
What's going on there, Brandon? It's Friday night. I think we did this last week on Friday, didn't we?
Yes.
And we were all rushing out to football games and kind of following our pick sixes. Guess who's in the lead right now, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't know. Not for long. We'll see.
No game for you tonight?
No, I have the night off. I'm going to be running the Friday Night Flash, which is our live in real time updated scoreboard of scores, football scores all around the great state of Idaho. So I'm going to be plugged into every game tonight, Scott.
Nice.
If you think about it.
Oh, very good. Yeah, it's homecoming at our place. So we have got all the pomp and circumstance. We just finished the parade. I was driving Razor at the back end of the parade, just making sure everybody's behaving themselves, and just finished that. Ran back here, shoot a podcast, back to the game. We got a chopper landing at midfield. It's going to be a wild night. That's for dang sure. Welcome.
Cool. Yes, Jerome, and I'll admit, I'm not sure who the opponent is. I didn't look.
Yeah, Canyon Ridge.
Okay.
Canyon Ridge. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so we were going to have it last week, but when I scheduled everything, it's like, okay, all right, 20th is going to be homecoming. I guess it would help to look at a school calendar because we didn't have school that day, So it's like, oh, right, we're going to have a parade in front of nobody. And all right, okay, we had to bump it back a week. So here we are.
Okay, well, you've got the HC moniker next to your name here today on your name tag. What, head coach? What are you coaching?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's either head coach or homecoming.
Okay.
So we're going to go with homecoming right now.
Okay, I like it. Homecoming for sure. Kimberly welcomed home with great big jubilant arms, their football team, a week ago, Scott. This was, this was not just the story of the Magic Valley. This was the story of the entire state last Friday night when that final score came in. Kimberly 17, Sugar-Salem 14. Everybody said, what? Huh? Seriously? An East Idaho media person, I won't say who, was like, is that really what the score was? That can't possibly be. And yep, it sure was. What a moment for the Kimberly Bulldogs to go take down Big Bad Sugar-Salem.
Man, we were doing the same thing. It was like it started coming across in our text thread, and we're like, wait, hold on, is this right? Is this a final score? What's this all about? And well, I'll be danged. It was exactly that, on the road for the Kimberly Bulldogs to go to Sugar. And if you've been living in a cave and not knowing what Sugar has done, in football for the past, gosh, how many years, Brandon? They have been the cream of the crop in 3A, 4A, whatever A it is they do now. But they are the pinnacle team, one of them, in that classification. And to go on the road and beat them, boy, what a signature win for that program. Because, we talked about this in one of the old podcasts that we had, is the tough non-conference schedule that Kimberly has, and if you're going to play that non-conference schedule, you got to make sure that you pick up one of those signature wins along the way. Because, you look at who they played. They opened with Fruitland, a close loss. They played that Sutter Union team out of California, lost to them. And at this point, we were thinking, man, this is the best 0-2 team in this classification, and then they host Snake River and they squeak out a win there. And it's like, okay, all right. But then they have Homedale that comes to town, and Homedale is a freaking juggernaut. And they kind of boat race Kimberly. And now all of a sudden, Kimberly's like, well, gosh dang, now we got to go to Sugar. Where is a win going to happen for us again? Well, It was at Sugar. And, you look at that particular game and, this was one that, that they knew they could get. They kind of dialed them in early on the week. They were well prepared. They had their kids thinking that they could play with Sugar and focused them on every play being your last. Don't worry about the scoreboard. Just beat the man in front of you, all that kind of stuff that leads up to a big game like this. And as it turned out, last second field goal, and Kimberly gets the win.
Pretty remarkable. Yeah, Kimberly, we'll talk about what the ramifications of beating Sugar-Salem here in a second. But for the game itself, Sugar strikes first quarter, 79-yard touchdown run from Dawson McAnally, and it's 7-0 first quarter. And you're like, okay, here we go.
Right.
Jump ahead of the fourth quarter. It's still 7-0, Scott. We haven't really made any progress either way.
Yeah.
Kimberly actually goes ahead 14-7. McCrae Bruning throws a 14-yard touchdown pass to Titus Osterman on 4th and 5, by the way. Big roll of the dice there from head coach Joe Dilley. That was on the first play of the fourth quarter. Kimberly ties the game at 7. Next possession, Sugar fumbles. Kimberly recovers it. They move down the field again. Bruning, 29-yard touchdown pass to Joe Barrett. They're up 14-7 with 8:52 to go. But then Sugar, when they absolutely needed it, Scott, they moved down the field and they scored the game-tying touchdown with like 2 minutes to go. I mean, 2:14 was on the clock. What's Kimberly thinking in that scenario now tied at 14-all?
Well, you know what? I think the big thing was that, here we are late in the ball game and you have held Sugar to 14 points and they have had to earn those 14 points, so why not us? We're going to have the ball last. Why not us? All we need, no matter what has happened up to this point, is to put one drive together. Just put one drive together. That's all you got to do. Forget about everything that's happened. Forget about the fact that you just have 14 points on the board. Doesn't matter. So do they. One drive here. You are in control. And I think they had a whole lot of confidence going into that final drive.
For sure. On our episode of Gem State Game Day this week, Scott, I recapped every single play of that final drive for Kimberly. I said, here's what happened. So if you want the full final drive, you can check out Gem State Game Day on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. But the key plays on that final drive were 3rd and 7 for Kimberly at their own 33-yard line, minute 25 remaining. Bruning hits Osterman for 17 yards to get it to the 50-yard line. I mean, that was the key play that really kept it alive. And then 2nd and 15 from the Sugar 44 with 38 seconds left. They had just had a false start penalty. So 2nd and 15, Bruning hits Osterman again for 15 yards. Fresh set of downs, 1st and 10 at the 29-yard line. They were cruising from there. They basically get it down to 4.1 seconds to play. Kimberly spends their final timeout. They basically ran the ball to line it up right down the middle of the hash. It ends up being a 30-yard field goal try from Eddie Paz. He only kicks and punts for Kimberly, and man, is he a good one, Scott. Here is the video that someone shot from the stands of that final game-winning kick here by Eddie Paz from Kimberly. 30-yard field goal as time expires. Check this out. True and through, and the celebration was on.
Wow. Yeah, I there were a lot of stunned people in that crowd, and you got to, tip your hat to Kimberly, especially on the defensive side of the football. Coach May, their defensive coordinator, boy, what a game plan he had. I mean, I don't remember the last time Sugar's been held to 14 points, but those kids kind of manned up, especially after that initial touchdown, and boy, they got it done. And they got some good performances too in really kind of not really an offensive juggernaut type of game, but Damon Taylor rushed for over 100 yards. McCrae Bruning had, threw for just under 200. The defense forced one turnover, but they had a lot of 3 and outs, that defense did, and because of that, it just kept Sugar out of that offensive rhythm. And, and teams like Sugar that, really are supposed to win games like this, if you just stay around, just stick around, find a way to be relevant late in the game, all of a sudden it's Sugar that tightens up and you're the one that all has the confidence now. And so, I think there was a lot of that going on as well. But boy, what a huge, huge win for Kimberly. And now they can kind of get into that conference schedule on a high note. And that is so important in that non-conference schedule that you have, is to accomplish a couple of things. Number one, you play good teams. So you just get, your butt beat every once in a while, just so you get smacked in the mouth and you play these tough games. That way that prepares you for what's left at the regular season. But boy, to come out with a signature win in a game that you were not supposed to win, take that momentum into the conference, boy, it played out really well for Kimberly.
And I know Kimberly's been banged up this year. They've had some key guys injured, some key guys in and out of the lineup. So that was huge. For Sugar-Salem, this is their second loss in a row, Scott. They lost to Star Valley, Wyoming the week prior. Yeah. Now they're on, I don't even know, Abraham Lincoln was the president, I think, the last time Sugar had a 2-game losing streak.
It's got, I'm sure Sugar's just kind of scratching their head right now. It's going, what in the world just happened to us? We've lost 2 games in a century, and now we've got 2 of them here back to back. We got to figure this out, and that's the thing, you've seen teams like this before too, where they're so used to winning, how much adversity, and this really isn't a ton of adversity for normal teams, but what is an elite team like Sugar going to do in response to this? I mean, they're the ones that just got punched in the mouth 2 weeks in a row. What are you going to do? Can you handle this type of adversity when you're so used to cruising and winning? What do you do now? So, I think it was a big game for Sugar, because they may take this and use it as a springboard as well. Say, hey, we're not invincible. Despite our past successes, we still have got to scrap and work for stuff. Or they can just say, what, we're not used to this. We're done. So I think it's going to be the former, not the latter, but we'll see.
In the chat, our North Idaho Prepcast host, Ryan Skaggs. Anyone check on Lance? How's he dealing with the Sugar loss? That's Lance Taylor. Yeah. Our Sugar-Salem broadcaster.
That's right. I didn't even think of that. I'm sure Lance has some sort of pity parties going on at his house right now. Everybody's just sitting around sulking and doing all that kind of stuff. Sorry, Lance, but you can only be on top of the mountain for so long.
Right. You talked about Kimberly and this schedule they put together. They have played basically all of the other favorites from the other districts around the 4A landscape, with the exception of North Idaho, of course, but they have played Sugar, the favorite in District 6, Snake River, the favorite in District 5, and then Homedale and Fruitland, the 2 teams that are kind of favored over there in District 3. When you look at the Max Preps rankings here, Scott, Kimberly is number 4 right now in the entire state for 4A football. Despite that 2-3 overall record, they are only trailing Fruitland, Homedale, and Sugar-Salem, the team they just beat. And what is remarkable, if you look at the entire top 10 for 4A football, they have an overall rating for Max Preps, and then there is a strength of schedule rating for Max Preps. Kimberly is the only team in the entire top 10 that has a strength of schedule ranking that is on the positive side of 0. Sugar, Homedale, Fruitland, Moscow, Buell, Marsh Valley, Weiser, Snake River, McCall-Donnelly all have minus numbers in the strength of schedule. So that tells me, while those guys have been padding with big, easy wins, Kimberly has gone out and really challenged themselves. And now as they maybe start to pile up wins in their conference play, maybe they can nudge ahead here. Well, it'll be interesting.
I don't know. Maybe that's what they need. I mean, we've talked about this before with Kimberly football, is they're so good in the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs and it just doesn't work out for them. But, this 4A conference, there are more, I think, solid teams in this particular conference than you would expect. I mean, there are juggernauts up and down this 4A. I mean, and Kimberly's played them all. Those are some quality teams in Fruitland and Homedale and Sugar and Kimberly, and my gosh, the list goes on. And I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's certainly going to help them. That's for sure.
Yeah, contrast of how you build your schedule, right? Kimberly knew coming in, hey, we think we're going to be pretty good. Let's go challenge ourselves. Gooding, conversely, kind of the other team, and Buell is off to a great start too. Gooding, they're 4-0. Gooding came in and said, hey, it's been a couple of years since we've been to the playoffs. Let's set ourselves up with some games we think we can win early, and maybe that will give us some momentum going into conference play. Gooding is 4-0, but they're only 13th. In the Max Preps rankings because of a somewhat softer schedule. But I see why Gooding did what they did. Their thought was, let's bankroll some wins early. That might get our guys' confidence up, and then we can roll into conference play. So
yeah. I mean, there's 2 schools of thought when you set up your non-conference schedule, and the bottom line is, are the other schools going to have any, spots available to play you anyway? But I think the ideal situation is, you toughen up your non-conference unless you are going to absolutely get boat raced in your own conference and you're not going to get any wins there. Then you need to schedule light. But boy, I don't think Kimberly could have scheduled any harder than they did.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. Kimberly opens conference play tonight with Filer. Filer 1-0 in conference play. They went and beat Wood River last week, Scott. So this will be a good game out of the chute for Kimberly. As for Sugar-Salem, they're on the bye this week, Scott. So they are going to sit and stew on that loss for a long 2 weeks.
Oh, boy.
And then they get Preston in a non-conference game. Ugh, I wouldn't want to be Preston.
No. And, that's when you're going to learn a lot about yourself when you're Sugar. Just how is your response going to be? But you're right. They're going to sit on this and they're going to think about it. And you can bet practices are not going to be fun for a little while until they can get it together.
Yeah. Definitely not. All right. Well, let's keep it rolling here from one set of kicking to another. Let's go to the soccer pitch, and the Wendell Trojans, Scott, they're very quietly having a fantastic season. They are 8-1-1 overall. That also happens to be their record within the gigantic High Desert Conference that's got like 10 teams in it. They have only suffered one loss on the season. It was all the way back in the season opener, August 26th, to the Cutthroats from Sun Valley Community School. They lost that game by a single goal, 3-2. And then the only other blemish on the resume was a draw 6 days ago against Kimberly, 1-1. But otherwise, it's been pretty smooth sailing for Coach Felipe Peniagua and the Wendell Trojans. And in fact, they lost to Sun Valley Community School by a goal way back in August. They got revenge last week, Scott. They took out the Cutthroats 4-1. This was a breakthrough win for Wendell in boys soccer.
Yeah, this is a really interesting Wendell team that has just one senior. I mean, they're young, and I think we may have mentioned how young they were in a podcast that we did last year, I think, that this was a team to keep an eye on. But, one senior this year, about 11 juniors, 5 sophomores, 5 freshmen. So, this is a team that is good now, and they're going to be good next year as well. But, talking to, Coach Felipe, it was one of those things to where when the schedule came out, they knew that, the Cutthroats are kind of an elite soccer team, and that's the team that everybody's trying to beat in this division. And, and I think they sort of maybe have psyched themselves out just a little bit on that opening game to start the season. And, they kind of were really timid in that first half. They started to attack more in the second half, but they just sort of ran out of time before they kind of figured out what was going on. But they were dialed in on that second one, okay? And it really did open their eyes to how good they could be because, like I said, the Cutthroats are the standard. You measure yourself against them year in and year out, and they're like, holy crap, we played awful, and we just about beat them. We could be really good here. And that, really kind of springboarded them throughout the rest of their season so far. And it's been really successful.
Yep. For Wendell, they are still in second place in the conference standings. Gooding still alone in first at 8-1. Wendell is a half game back at 8-1-1. That one draw with Kimberly is the differentiator there. Gooding just played Kimberly and won 2-1 last Wednesday, just a couple days ago, Scott. And then next Wednesday, October 2nd, Wendell at Gooding. Winner of that wins the conference. We might be circling back and talking about Wendell soccer again in 1 week here.
Yeah, this is you kind of get behind the scenes a little bit about this Wendell team. And, although they're young, this is a group of kids that this is all they do. The only person on this team that does more than just soccer is their one senior. Everybody else, this is it. All they ever talk about is playing FIFA. They watch the Premier League matches and then they want to go scrimmage and, but they play indoor soccer in the winter. And when the weather turns nice, they're working. They're moving pipe, they're picking rock, they're milking cows, they're doing all of these things. But no matter how long their day is, they're finding time to get to the pitch and play and scrimmage. So this is a group of guys that, Felipe said that they truly love the game. And you get a group that loves the game, then they're going to find ways to get better, because oftentimes you get teams that, they're not in love with the game itself. They're just playing. And there's a whole different interest level and investment level at this point. But these guys, you take that and then you factor in how close they are. They're like brothers, to each other. They do everything together. They tell each other everything. When one of them eats, they all go eat. No matter anybody's got money or not, they all pitch in and they do it. I mean, these guys are tight as they come. And I tell you what, there is something to be said out there if you've got a team, boys or girls, that doesn't have the drama. And if you don't have drama on your team, man, the sky's the limit in a lot of these cases, because, the talent will take over. But if you've got too much of this extracurricular crap going on, man, it's going to put a ceiling on top of your talent. So, and these guys, they don't have any of that. And that's why they're going to be successful. So what a start for the Wendell Trojans.
Yeah, what a luxury. Scott, it appears my video has frozen.
Yes, it has.
You can hear me still though, right?
Yeah. Oh, I got you. I'm just looking. Is that your good side or your bad side I'm looking at?
I'm giving somebody the side eye, it looks like, man.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, you're frozen, but I got you. I got your audio.
Okay, we'll keep rolling then. 4 goals from 4 juniors in that 4-1 win over Sun Valley Community School. Fernando Ibarra Gutierrez, Cesar Camargo, Cesar Morales, and the final goal came from Jeffrey Gonzalez. So, Scott, we have video of all 4 goals. I will give you warning on 2 of them. You're going to have to cock your head to the side. Scott, could you demonstrate? There we go. Thank you. Okay, so here is the goals in no particular order. Okay, so that was the first one. Came on the penalty kick there and totally faked him out with the eyes. The goalkeeper shot to the left and he just dribbled it like at 2 miles an hour into the right corner of the net. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I would probably be kicking it over the top of the whole thing, whole apparatus.
Right.
Me and soccer never got along.
Yeah. Here is our second goal. That's a difficult one too, because his momentum is carrying him to the right side of the pitch, and then he comes back and drills it all the way across the field, across the box, into the left corner of the net. That was a well-placed strike as well.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Here's our third goal, and these last 2, you'll be able to keep your head straight forward. Again, Scott, could you demonstrate? Thank you. That is the Scotty special. Line it up from 40 yards out and Legatron it through. You would have gone way over the crossbar, but
oh, absolutely. I have no control in this monster's leg of mine. I don't know where it's going.
Yeah. And then here is the final goal, Scott.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, you see that brotherhood, that celebration at the end there, huh?
Yeah, that's just the one thing that's going to set these guys apart from a lot of others is, some of the shenanigans they do. Well, I mean, talking to their head coach, I mean, you walk in and all of a sudden they're in a fight club in the locker room, but it's all in fun, just either punching each other in the arm to see how much they can take or whatever the case is. And coach is like, oh, geez, what are you guys doing? But it's just that male bonding thing, and they're all involved in it. And then, I won't get into detail on the other thing that they like to do, but it, involves a bus ride and some closed windows and some flatulation.
Well, if you can survive that, I mean, you can survive anything, right?
Oh, I tell you, yeah, you're not kidding. I mean, some of the stories I was getting about these guys, it's like, oh my God, they are teenage boys, right? But they love each other, and they, no matter what odor emits from them, they love it all.
Yeah. And this has been building for a couple of years with this Wendell program.
By the smell of it, it's been building longer than that.
Right. They got to state a couple of years ago and got so painstakingly close to winning it all and fell just a little bit short of their goals. I believe they are still in search of their first title since 2014, Scott. So we're coming up on 10 years now. No better time to break the streak than this year. So,
oh, absolutely. And they've got a solid program this year. A lot to look forward to. So I'm anxious to see how far they can take this thing.
Yep, for sure. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up just quickly with Twin Falls and Canyon Ridge kind of co-hosted the Twin Falls Invitational last week for volleyball, Scott. This was basically a who's who of 6A and 5A clubs with 4A Kimberly participating in the mix as well. In terms of who won the tournament, there was no official winner. It was just kind of some round robin play, no bracket or anything. Rocky Mountain came over and went 5-0, though. They were the only team to go undefeated. Eagle went 4-1. Kimberly finishes 3-2. Timberline from Boise 2-2. Hillcrest and Twin Falls each went 1-4, and Canyon Ridge went 0-4. So Canyon Ridge, the 6A, goes 0-4. Twin Falls, the 5A, goes 1-4. It's Kimberly, the 4A, that has the best mark at 3-2. They beat Twin Falls and Canyon Ridge and Timberline and fell to Rocky and Eagle. And those are two of the better teams in 6A volleyball.
Oh, absolutely. If you are Kimberly, man, this is a great tournament to be part of. I mean, you're playing first of all, you take Rocky and Eagle are coming out of that conference where you've got, oh my gosh, you got 5 teams with three or less losses. I mean, you got a Waihe at 15-1, Eagle 17-2, Rocky 17-2, Centennial 17-3, Skyview 15-3. So that Rocky and Eagle conference is legit. I mean, these guys are playing some top-notch volleyball. And if you're Kimberly and you get a little taste of that, that is doing nothing but making you better. It's kind of the equivalent of their football team that we just talked about with their non-conference schedule. And Kimberly's ranked number 5 in the latest volleyball pool. Eagles number 5. And, so you've got some really good teams here. And boy, what a showing by Kimberly to kind of place with the 3rd best record, I guess.
Yes. Kimberly took it on the chin early, especially at the Peg Peterson tournament over in Pocatello at the start of the season. Kimberly, I believe, only qualified for the bronze bracket, but the context is they were missing Mallory Kelsey, their leader and all-around best player. Well, she's back, and Kimberly has been on a roll ever since. And so I think people might still be, you look at the overall record for Kimberly, oh, they're not as good as some of the other. Kimberly's good. Trust me. They're going to be right there in the mix for that 4A championship. And so,
oh, they will. I mean, their losses were early, I mean, in fact, they lost, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches before they won a match. I mean, they were 0-5-2 at one point, and that's just kind of battling through what you said. And then they just started rattling them off like they're supposed to do. And so they're going to be right in the middle of it. They're fine.
Yep. Canyon Ridge is finding out life in the 6A is tough, especially when you're in the Princess Madison, last year's state champion in volleyball. And then Twin, I think is still going to be okay. That 5A classification is wide open, Scott. I'm looking at like 6 or 7 teams right now that I go, yeah, they could win it all. Skyview is no longer part of it. They opted to play up in the 6A ranks this year. And so because of that, who's gonna take the mantle? It could be Twin Falls, maybe Wood River. Burley is playing a lot better in volleyball too in that Magic Valley. And let's not forget, the last team not named Skyview to win a state championship at this classification level was Twin Falls. So
yeah. Well, and and it's a good thing Skyview moved up. I mean, because they're just picking up where they left off. I mean, Skyview just got done competing at this elite tournament in Vegas, where there were 64 teams of like who's who in volleyball around the country, basically. And Skyview placed 25 out of 64. You know, and you listen to that and you know, that's what is that? And you go, well, that's pretty dang good when you're playing 64 of the best volleyball teams in the country. So, you know, good thing Skyview's up, because otherwise it would be everybody chasing Skyview again. But, you know, you get into, you know, that Great Basin Conference, you know, Wood River, and I mean, Wood River's the class of it right now. They're leading the way. But there's no reason like a team like Twin, maybe even Burley, can't sneak in there. But I don't know. That 5A is wide open now.
Yep, totally open. Pocatello has the most wins. But, you know, up here where I live, Scott, in North Idaho, I really think Lakeland's pretty good this year. I've gone on record saying they're the team I think is going to win it all, but it's
really
going to be
interesting. Yeah, and they're tied for second place right now in the latest poll, you know, behind tied with Pocatello, but Idaho Falls leading the way. And, you know, you look up and if the rankings mean anything to you, I mean, it's just more or less a benchmark. You know, you're looking at these rankings and there's not one dominant team. In fact, in the latest, you know, coaches poll, the 5 teams that were ranked 1 through 5, all of them got a first place vote. So that tells you that there's no clear cut standalone team in 5A. So it's whoever gets hot. So of all the 6 votes of teams that could get a first place vote, it went to 6 different teams. I mean, think about that. That doesn't happen. You know, not one person could agree who the number 1 team was. So that'll tell you something.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. That 5A volleyball race is going to be fun as we come down the stretch here. And so we'll keep an eye on everything that's going on in the Magic Valley. Certainly, Scott, as always, thank you for helping on, especially on a Friday, especially on a homecoming Friday. I know you've got to go, so we will let you get to it. Of course, you can check IdahoSports.com for all the latest updates on scores from this busy weekend of activities. So.
That's right. Yep. Another busy weekend. And it's hard to imagine we're about halfway through everything. You know, it goes by so quickly. In fact, district golf is coming up next week. And man, and then before you know it, we're going to be into basketball and wrestling.
Yep, it's coming. So, all right. Thanks for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. For Scott Burton, I'm Han Solo, forever frozen in carbonite. And we will talk to you. Yeah, we will talk to you next time. You're on Idaho